1 year ago, I sat in this very chair, wearing this very shirt, having a camera at this very wall, and I talked about my excitement for an upcoming video game, and that game, of course, being Fire Emblem Three Houses for the Nintendo Switch, the most recent game in my favorite video game series. And so eventually we find ourselves here, 1 year later from that video game's release, and I feel disbelief that it's already been a year because I remember that game coming out and my excitement for it as if it was yesterday. I never quite forgot how excited I was, and I have to thank me making a video documenting that excitement for that too. But I remember exactly what I was doing the moment it came out. I was sitting over there on my couch just tapping the A button on my Switch Pro controller, just waiting for that game to unlock until it eventually did, and then I shut it down immediately because I was not ready to start playing the game. Then what I did is I turned out all the lights, I made sure all my recording equipment was set up, I cranked up the volume on my TV, and then I said, go for it. And if you want my advice in the case that you have yet to play Three Houses, play it in a dark room, as dark as you can make it. Crank up that volume, because that introduction and that title screen and that music, it all hits different when you're up at midnight and you're a little tired. And then I played the crap out of that game when I finally had access to it. So, within the 24-hour period of this game launching, I played it for 17 hours. 17 hours. Out of the 24-hour period. I would have played it for longer, but I had to sleep eventually. But I only slept for like 2 hours. It was more like a nap than sleep. And also, I was getting my car windshield replaced because, like, the month before, I hit a mailbox. and I left a big old crack in it. And I called the guy to get it replaced, and he looked at his schedule, and he said, we can do the 26th of July. Will that work for you? And I said, damn it, fine, 26th is okay. And so I had to just deal with that and make sure it was fine. And then I edited the Fire Emblem Awakening retrospective episode for a little bit, since that was not done yet, which I said I was going to get done before the Three Houses launched. But aside from that, though, yeah, I played Three Houses all day. And then people were messaging me like, Chris, Three Houses is so good. And then other people were messaging me like, dude, I've been checking my friends list all day. I haven't seen you not play Three Houses. Are you okay? Yes, I was fine. But then here we are, 1 year later, and while I do have disbelief that it's already been a year, I also have a lot of belief that it's been a year. In fact, I have disbelief that it's only been a year. In a weird way, I feel like Three Houses never really left the conversation. Guilty as charged, I made a lot of videos on Three Houses. I've talked about Three Houses more than I probably will any other video game that will ever come out. So much fan art, and so much subreddit posts, and so much heated debates of why Edelgard's bad, Dimitri good, and why Dimitri bad, Edelgard good, and why Claude is also bad because he just sits on the sidelines eating chips while these two just fight it out, and then Rhea is in just her own little corner of moral grayness that has to be talked about. Yeah, I've gotten exhausted on Three Houses coverage too. But to take a step away from all that and to just reflect on Three Houses, not worry about the rest of it. How's just the game a year later? And obviously I'm a little less excited about it than I was a year ago. In fact, I'm a lot less excited. As I'm sure you probably are aware if you watched my other vlog videos where I talked about Three Houses as an experience. Yeah, I was a little disappointed after my first playthrough, and then second playthrough, it's like I was retroactively disappointed that I didn't play like the Blue Lions route first because that was really good, and then Golden Deer is like another can of worms. It's like, wow, we actually like do the thing that we said we were gonna do the first playthrough. That's wild. And then with Silver Snow, it was just finishing the whole game at that point. So, yeah, with every subsequent playthrough I did of Fire Emblem Three Houses, the game got a little better for me. But even still, it never ended up comparing to what I thought I was gonna feel like after finishing any one of those playthroughs, which was just this humongous excitement and a willingness to call it my favorite Fire Emblem game, because I believed it had that potential. But if you happen to see my Fire Emblem rankings list, Three Houses ended up being number 6 of 13 entries. And in fact, with a little bit more time to reflect on that, I probably would have bumped it down a ranking or two lower even. So let's answer a question I'm sure I'm being asked right now. Would I consider Fire Emblem Three Houses to be overrated? And my answer, maybe surprisingly, is no. Because I think that question requires some context. I feel like even nowadays, the average fan of Fire Emblem has only played Awakening Fates and Three Houses, and if you're one of those people, I have absolutely no questions why you could probably say that Three Houses is the best of those 3 games. I have no more questions if that's your entire context of the series. However, me, the Chad Alpha gamer male that has played all 16 Fire Emblem games and have finished all of them with the exception of one, I have a different set of expectations for this game. I have a different context for the whole series, and for Three Houses, I know much more clearly where it succeeds, where it fails, what it tried to do. And because of that, I do have a lower opinion of it than I would just some fan of the game who started with Fire Emblem 5 years ago, or someone who just picked up Three Houses for their first time at the Fire Emblem game ever made, or ever in their life, rather. But obviously, I still do like Three Houses. Fellas, I have more than 300 hours logged in Three Houses, and 200 of that was just doing the first 4 playthroughs. So yeah, I really like playing this game, and I just have a strong appreciation for it because it's so unlike any other Fire Emblem game that's come before it. Like, obviously, there's a lot of references, and I've said many times in the past that Three Houses is very heavily derived from a lot of things from Genealogy of the Holy War, but it also does so many new things for Fire Emblem as well. Never has any fan of the series before Three Houses walked around a fully realized school and church setting. No Fire Emblem fan before this game was able to teach students and make hyper-focused builds on what exactly they wanted to do. No other fan of the series had such freedom customizing characters and making any team composition they've wanted before. No other fan of the series could ever say before that they played a fishing minigame in Fire Emblem until Three Houses. So there's so much unique things that set this game apart from others in the series, even though it had also improved some of those elements that came from previous games in the series. Like, for example, the Garrick Mach Monastery and freely walking around it could very well just be seen as an iteration of walking around towns in Gaiden, or the My Castle system from Fire Emblem Fates, or even, in a weird way, like the base menus from Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. It could be seen as like an improvement of that, but it carried a much different feeling that no other game in the series before then had evoked. The combat and game flow was very much derived from Gaiden and Shadows of Valentia, but it put its own unique spins on a lot of that. I think that the teaching aspect added a new perspective on combat that was never before seen. I think that being able to freely customize characters to be whatever role you wanted them to be, and then immediately switch them to another role if something wasn't working out, or you wanted to adapt them to new situations. No other game of the series really did it to that extent before. Obviously, we could say the Shadow Dragon and Mystery of the Emblem remakes on DS, but even that was pretty limited. There was no other game in the series that was quite as freeform and unique as Three Houses in that aspect. So for as much of a mess as Fire Emblem Three Houses is, It is a unique game, and I think as time goes on, more Fire Emblem fans, regardless of whether or not they still like it, I think they're going to find much more to appreciate in it as time goes on, and maybe Fire Emblem will go back to more traditionalist concepts in the next game or wherever. Especially if Three Houses is the only game where you're the role of a teacher or a mentor or anything like that. Where it's the only game where you have that much freedom and weapons you can use and the gambits and formations and all of that. And it's not like even like the time skip. It's not like that concept's new to Fire Emblem, but I think if the next game doesn't do that, it's going to make Three Houses even more unique. Even though, yeah, Genealogy did that years before, even Awakening did that, but with Three Houses, it can still be its own special thing if the next Fire Emblem game doesn't try to outdo that concept. And I think that's what it comes down to the end of the day. That's kind of where I want the series to go. I don't want it to outdo Three Houses. I want Three Houses to be its own special little baby. A lot of people are clamoring for improvements to the monastery system and the teaching system and making suggestions for how Fire Emblem could tackle the school setting better for the next game. And I don't want them to tackle the school setting for the next game. I want them to tackle Fire Emblem for the next game. It is precisely because Three Houses is the most innovative game to have come out of the series since Thracia 776 that I've been so able to easily appreciate this game despite its numerous amount of flaws. The fact that it was willing to just go far out and do something that new and unique, I think really sets it apart. And I think it would be a shame if Intelligent Systems just tried to keep chasing that rabbit. It's like, let the rabbit go. Chase the deer or something. I don't know. I lost this analogy. Other than that, though, I really don't know what more I can really say on this game. I've talked about Three Houses more than any other video game I think I could ever talk about again in the future. Maybe that'll be outdone in the future. I don't know. But, yeah, I've talked about Three Houses a lot already, and I have plenty of videos you can watch on my channel if you want the full Three Houses experience. But despite Three Houses being a real mess, despite it being a game where it could have been improved on a lot, despite it being a game I was a little disappointed with, I'm still really thankful for Three Houses. Without it ever coming out, I would have never done a full retrospective on the series. I would probably have never played some of the Japanese-only games, at least not as fast as I did. I got a lot of growth on my channel because of the Fire Emblem retrospective. I never would have saw that if it was never made. I would have never had that success had Three Houses never come out. It's thanks to Three Houses being developed and coming out that it gave me hope during the darkest time in my life and was just one simple reason for me to keep going. For that, I can never truly hate Three Houses. I'll dunk on the game, I'll continue to do so, but Three Houses, despite it all, was still a special game. I'll play it for a few hundred hours more. Three Houses is problematic, Three Houses is tiring, but I appreciate Three Houses a lot. I think after 1 year, I realized just kind of how special of a game it is.